Oh, you can't always get what you want.
Wow. We're singing a lot.
But if you try sometime, it just might find pow. You get what you need.
You kind of turned into Jack Black there for a little bit.
Maybe Jack Black turned into me. You've never thought that, have you? It's always me turning into him. But what if it was the reverse? It's not the reverse, but what if it was?
To say to that.
That song was a tremendous segue. Thank you, Jimmy, for this next interview with our next guest, who last time I had a history with our guest. This time you got a history.
That's right.
With our guest. What are we talking about?
This is one of my dearest friends in all the world. Her name's Lindsay Schott. We've been friends for a long time. And you're going to get to hear some of our story together. And the reason that we are taking a deep dive into our friendship in particular is because we both feel uniquely gifted and wired to do the same things. And a lot of our journey has had me doing a lot of those things and Lindsay not being able to. And so we're exploring this idea of what happens when your friend gets all the things you want. What happens when someone you know is getting the things that you want to do? That's hard. I've been there in other seasons. In some ways, you heard that in our story in the first episode.
It's kind of the reverse.
It's a little bit, it's a little bit of the reverse situation. And so Lindsay and I were friends through a lot of that and wrestled through similar things together in friendship. And so we're going to explore it from a little bit of a different angle there today. So if you've ever been there where you're watching somebody else get all the things that your heart kind of dreams of, what do you do with that? We're going to talk about that today.
So just to follow up, would you say that my intro song was the perfect segue for this episode? Or like if you were to rate it on the scale of 1 to perfect? I'd say that's a solid perfect.
About what my answer
Ladies and gentlemen. But if you try sometime, it just might find. Come on, Kel.
I don't even know.
Anyways, watch the show. Here we go.
Bye.
Linz, I'm so glad you're on this podcast with me.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here.
I am gonna say it again because I'm being weird now.
Don't be. It's fine. I'll roll with it. I'm in.
So it helps me to remember that there are dear listeners on the other side of this. So, dear person who's listening, this is my dear friend, Lindsay. And I'm so glad that you're joining me because we have conversations all the time on Marco Polo, in person, on the phone, through text, that I'm like, someone needs to hear this conversation.
Yes.
So we're here because I'm releasing a book, which, irony of ironies, you know me. We'll talk about this.
Yes.
It's crazy that that's happening. And it's dealing with something we both really care about. And so I'm excited to just talk about that and how that's impacted both of us. But first, I want people to just know the history of our friendship. Yeah. So if you are listening to this and you read Friendish, then you've actually read about Lindsay. I changed all the names in Friendish just to honor all the people, stories who I told. I just is easier to just do a big sweep, change everybody's names. But you were the friend that I emailed when we moved to Houston from College Station, and I had no friends. I was like, I need a friend who's near me. And I don't know anybody, but I have a few people I've connected with through a friend, a mutual friend. And so I just sent some emails and essentially said, please be my friend, somebody who is around. And you wrote me back and said, what are you doing this week? Let's meet at Starbucks. Yeah. And so we met up at Starbucks on a Tuesday, I think.
Yes.
And I think that we met for how many? Like 2 years straight every week.
Yep.
So
it was.
You were like, you had your own set of friends, but you made space for me.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't hard to do. I mean, I wasn't like, wow, I really have to work hard to make space for you. I remember getting that email and just being so excited because I like the clarity. It's like, I need a friend. Can we be friends? Yeah. And the response is yes. Sure, we can totally be friends. And so that felt easy. And then I think I remember us saying, how about we meet at Starbucks every Tuesday or like every other Tuesday until we don't want to anymore. And then it was 2 years of that. And then you moved. But it was like 2 years of meeting at this Starbucks. And it was awesome. Yeah. And I think the thing that also made it so easy was how quickly like we found a kinship and what we cared about, what we loved, what we liked to talk about. And that felt rare. Yeah. And so it was easy to keep meeting. And we had some similarities at the time, right? So we're both in ministry at the time, in youth ministry. My goodness, youth ministry.
Oh, man.
youth ministry at the time. And we're still somewhat in early marriage, right? We're like under 5 years.
Right. I think you and I were 3 or 4 years in.
Yeah.
Something like that.
And
no kiddos yet.
No kids yet.
Wanted children.
Both had on the road for that.
Problems brewing there.
Yeah.
I had a miscarriage. You guys, I think, were trying at the time.
We were trying at the time. And then trying to find friends as an adult now that you're working full time. Like when you go to, if you go to college, like there's these friendship moments that are built into you're all living that same life.
Yeah.
And now we're all adults with jobs and marriages and trying to figure out how can I have real thriving friendships. So I also had a need that was like, I also need a friend too. So it was easy to respond. And we just shared such a quick, like, we would say, so he'd kind of venture out, like, I read this thing in the Bible. I thought it was cool. What do you think? And then your response would be like, that's amazing. And so then just to find a friend who, as I would geek out about the Bible or read theology for fun, like for you to respond with the same amount of energy, I was like, oh my goodness, really? So that was really why, that's one of the joys of our friendship is it felt similar.
Well, I think one of the reasons now, looking back, that was so easy and so natural and we had such similarities, because I do think we're both wired as Bible teachers. Yeah. Like in our wiring, our spiritual gifting, like passions, we both are like, give me the Bible and somebody who's eager to hear what it has to say. Yeah. And I'm so happy. Yes. I will be here for 10 hours. Thank you. Everybody else go to sleep. I've got somebody who wants to know what this book has to say and I want to talk about it. We both feel that in our bones. Yes. Which means that the random things we discover in the Word, we know if no one else wants to hear about that random small tidbit that I found out while I was studying this, I know Lindsay will want to hear it, which is why our Marco Polos are long, because you're doing the same for me. That's right. And so even early on, even though neither one of us, we were doing youth ministry, but not really in that way necessarily. Sure. Yep. But we both had, I think, a growing passion for God's Word to teach it. Yeah. And that was really some of the foundation of friendship for us was... Bible nerds together.
Yeah, it was like I wasn't at the time finding that many friends who were like, so I was reading Wayne Grudem's Systematic Theology the other day, and check this out. When you find that, that's pretty rare. Or we weren't in school. We weren't in school for that. No. It was like, I read this for fun.
Just for fun. So, or when I remember you bringing up... what is Heschel? It's Heschel's book, right? On the prophets.
Yeah, Abraham Heschel's book on the prophets.
Right, where you're like, what, have you read this? You have to read this chapter called The Manner of the Man, or Who is the Man, the Prophet, or something like that. And I read it, and I was like, oh, this is amazing. I borrowed that book for so long that I spilled a whole cup of coffee on it by one point. I think you have it now stained and weird, but
treasured now, because I
bought my own coffee. I mean, I bought my own copy of it. And that has been just such a, I think, sweet connection that we've had. And one of the reasons I wanted to talk with you and share more of our friendship is it's been really interesting, the turns that our friendship has taken specifically in that lane as both of us wanting to teach the Word, wanting opportunities to do that. It has been a very backward, up and down journey. And so I want to tell some of that story. So we were friends 2 years in the Houston area. I moved up to Dallas. And we stayed in touch. You helped me move in. Yes. Helped me paint there was this terrible tree in my daughter's room that was like Pepto-Bismol pink and weird colors. And we painted the room together. Yeah. So even in my move, you came with me and helped. And we stayed in touch through all of that. And after we moved, it's probably a couple years into moving that I had discovered a deep pride problem that I was determined to get rid of, which meant I swore off public ministry. I was like, I'm totally done with that. I'm terrified. I don't want to fail. And in the swearing off of public ministry, I began to get a lot of opportunities to teach the Word and to write about it. Yeah. Doors were being flung open at me that I did not ask for or try. And I was scared of that. I was nervous. I didn't want to do it. But I mean, I was excited, but I felt fear of failure, all those things. And I'm processing all that with you. Yeah. I'm calling you saying, this ministry just reached out to me and said, will you write for our blog? And this church just called me and said, will you come and speak at our women's event? Yeah. And I'm telling you, I don't want to do this. And I want you to tell me, what's going on in your life on the other side of that?
Me hearing all that. yeah, it's so funny because even as we talk about it, like I can visually in my head see where I am in my house, at that house, like having these conversations with you. And I think if like so many things happen in me and those things, then I think even I would love to ask you and like see what that was like for you. But so for me on my end, I mean, I went to college to be a communications major because I was like, I think I'm going to be Bible speaker lady. And that was the vague, not very specific plan. And then through different things that God did, that was not the door opened for me ever. That door was always closed. I made a small wager with God that was like, okay, well, I also sing and play guitar. And so I made this wager with God that I was like, okay, in the next year, I'll just say yes to whatever you give me. And by that, I'll know what you're asking me to do. And in a year, I was asked to lead worship probably like 10 times. And then I was asked to share, not teach, share for 5 minutes at a prayer meeting, at which I also led worship.
I remember that.
And so it was like, oh, okay, I think that's what God's doing. But as I still would lead worship, there's still a constant, I would rather be teaching, which still feels terrible to say somehow. I don't know if I need to feel that, but it still feels weird to say it. But I, on my end, am dealing with, I love the Bible. I want to teach the Bible. I've had other people say I'm good at doing this. They've told me it's my calling. This is my degree. And it seems like the doors keep getting shut in my face. And Kelly doesn't even want to do this. And
And I have a finance degree.
She has do y'all know she has a finance degree? She's wildly smart and really great at numbers. And I have a communications degree, and it's like, you will not speak in front of anybody, Lindsay. Just be quiet. And so we've said this phrase so many times, I am like, put me in, coach, I will go and do it. And you were like, I will gladly sit on the bench. And he did the opposite. He kept shoving you out. And for me, the answer was, it is not time, and you need to stay. And so simultaneously, I'm feeling this, and it feels the same when you're trying to get pregnant and someone gets pregnant. It's the same exact feeling of, I am genuinely happy for you, and I'm simultaneously also genuinely sad for myself. And it's not that I don't want you to have that. I didn't feel that with you, and I feel like, why? I don't want her to do that. It was like, but why can't I also do it? Like if because I also watched you not pursue it, which was also convicting because it was like, I know that Kelly is not out there passing out business cards saying, I'm your new motivational speaker. I knew that you were going, I don't want to do this. And it seemed as though God was forcibly saying, but I'm asking you to do it. And so it also made me go, Lindsay, if God wanted you to be doing this, he has ways of opening doors that you don't even know about. Because I was watching that happen with you. And it did make me go, he's not doing that. So then I had to wrestle with it, and there was a lot of motives. Well, the question I was going to ask you was, I remember more than once telling you, that's not normal. So I don't know if that helped you or made it worse, because I was like, I don't know about you, but nobody's randomly walking up to me asking me to speak at the retreat. And I want them to, and it's not happening. I hope I wasn't too forceful in being like, just so you know, that's not like an average person thing.
That's not normal. It did help, actually, because I didn't want to do it anyway. I was already looking for outs. Jimmy wasn't giving me any. He was encouraging me to do it. But then, honestly, to hear someone else, and you were honest with me, I would love to do that. I would love to do it. I'm like, I would love for you to do it. Can I just like, well, you didn't even live here. It's not like I would. And to hear you say, I would love to do it, and no one's asking me to, that's not normal. That seems like the Lord. Even in you grieving that that's not happening for you, you were still to me saying, hey, that's not normal. That sounds like it's from the Lord, and I think you need to take that seriously. If the Lord is doing this, like, don't stiff arm him. And I remember where I was at too, having those conversations, because it was so scary for me. I think at the top of my list of fears is fear of failure, even more than fear of like not accomplishing things or whatever. It's like, I don't want to fail. And so I had seen this pride in my heart public ministry felt like surefire failure. How can you not be in front of people and doing things and not wrestle with pride?
Yeah.
It feels near impossible. So I didn't want to be in that space. And here I have friends that God's putting in my life saying, that sounds like the Lord, you should probably say yes. I'm like, I don't want to do that. It was just an interesting season of conversation. I remember regularly talking to you through all of these doors being flung open at me. They're being shut in your face. You would tell me the stories of people coming, Lindsay, we have this event coming up. And you're like, really? Okay, I'm so excited. Would you lead worship? Like, melting, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I remember feeling that for you. And it was an interesting season to grieve and rejoice together in the unique things that God was doing. But in some ways, for both of us, he was not letting us do the preferred verbs that we wanted to be doing.
Absolutely.
I did not want to be teaching.
Yep.
I wanted to be at home. I wanted to be exercising my passions for the word in small discipleship ways, in smaller contexts that I felt safer in from that fear of failure. You wanted to be doing it in more visible outward ways, and God was looking at both of us and saying, no. You do not get to do the preferred things that make you feel and come alive in some ways in this season. And I think that was something that we felt united in, even though we were kind of in opposite trajectories, like going in opposite directions.
Yeah. It was funny in being your friend and processing through the thousands of bad motives I had for wanting to be Bible speaker lady that God continues to work out. But something that I saw was it's like I could see the similarities in what we're dealing with. I remember talking to you, and I remember one of the pastors here, you felt really uncomfortable because he really affirmed, like, I think you have a big level gifting, and I think you should pursue it. And we just want to support you however we can to make that happen. And again, just to reiterate, as your friend who's been your friend, like, Kelly's had so many people not just at random, but so many people be like, we support you however we can.
Right.
Just keep doing it. And I'm like, just to let you know, nobody's walking up to me telling me these things. But it was one of those moments. You get affirmed by, the pastor of your church here, which feels like a big thing. And you talking about wanting to avoid it because I don't want, I think you were saying, I know how big my pride is and I don't want to ruin myself. And then we may have said it at the same time. I don't know on the phone, but we both said, but you avoiding ministry is still you trying to rid yourself of sin, and you can't just by avoiding the stage, right?
Right.
And even when I said it, even though I was talking to you about the stage, it made me realize something about myself. Whatever my wrong motives are for being Bible speaker lady and the resistance I have to being hidden, whatever I try to outwardly commit to or not commit to will not rid the root of sin in me. It's actually the same. The same solution for both of us is trust in Jesus with whatever verb he hands us, because the goal is actually just faithfulness and loving him right where I was at.
Yep.
And so in you wrestling, it made me wrestle the exact same nucleus, right? But a different subject. Like it was just a different external circumstance. But I remember seeing it myself because I was like, if I can change the circumstances around it, then that'll affect what's here. None of that's true.
Right.
It won't do any of that.
No. Well, pride goes with me in every context. It does not dwell on a stage. And as you reminded me in those seasons and several other friends, that may be the very reason he was asking me to step onto stages, was to provoke pride so that he could save me from it.
Yeah.
Versus me trying to manage it myself in these other safe ways, which has really changed for me the way I even think about opportunities. Like, so now, like, this is a podcast that I do with my husband, right? And I'm like boldly stepping into these more things, right? I remember telling you about that recently in the car, so I think we're going to do a podcast. But if those opportunities are laid out in front of me, they feel less now like, oh, this is an awesome thing that is going to bless a lot of people. I hope it does. But the first thing I think is, if God has said it before me, it means he has something for me in it. He has sanctification to do in me.
Totally.
There's something about this verb of hosting a podcast and talking to you on this and doing these other things that's setting me free. Because God doesn't need me. And he doesn't need you. He doesn't need us. So whatever he's asking us to do, even if it is ministry to others, it's helped me to go, this is first for me. This is first to change me. Because what matters most in life is not what I accomplish, but how my relationship with him is.
Yeah.
My relationship with the Lord, my own sanctification and salvation is preeminently important. And this is the thing he has chosen to put in front of me to continue that work. And he will use it to bless others, but that's not the primary thing. And that has been really helpful to me. And I think that's something we both resonate with, which enabled us, I think, to be friends through all of that, because it'd be so easy for me to feel like, I can't talk to Lindsay about speaking stuff I'm wrestling with, because she's like, please give me speaking things. And God is saying no. But I didn't feel that from you.
Yeah.
And you regularly shared the ways you were wrestling. You clearly weren't intimidated to share with me, thinking it would be weird for me. And I think that's because in some way we both knew at the end of the day we want more of Jesus.
Yeah.
And we want our hearts more alive to him. And we at least know enough to see that that's happening, even though it's painful for both of us. And that felt really central. Maybe we didn't talk about it every time, but I think that's the gravitational force that was strong enough to allow us to be in such opposite spectrums and still be friends.
Yep.
And me tell you, don't go chase down the speaking event, because it seems like God is saying no. And you to tell me, go chase down that speaking event, because it seems like God is saying yes.
Yeah.
Like, go write the book, go do the thing.
Right.
Don't disobey him. And we're cheering each other on to pursue a person, not to pursue a set of verbs.
Yeah.
Not to go, this is how you're wired. That becomes your new thing you chase.
Yeah.
You chase Jesus where he leads you, into hiddenness, into the spotlight.
Yep.
Because wherever he is the good place.
Yeah. I think we both have a fundamental paradigm that's like, the biggest thing in my life and in your life, like you're saying, it's not accomplishable. The biggest thing in my life, in your life, is not that we would live out a sense of calling or even gifting that would give us our sense of purpose. You and I both have the fundamental sense of, if you are a Jesus follower, he's going to call you to die regularly, to big things too. Because at the same time that we were going through a lot of this, you teaching and not teaching, we had just traveled through miscarriage. Yep. Both of us had traveled through miscarriage simultaneously, like with each other. And we're dealing with the same thing with some of our friends were having children effortlessly when they didn't even want them sometimes. Like they didn't like the timing.
Right.
And then we're traveling through miscarriage. And so similarly, we're watching the pitfalls of, if your desire for a baby becomes more than anything else, you cannot carry the joys and the burdens of your friends who may or may not want kids, and they are getting them. So we walked this complicated road already of like something good, like babies, being given to some and not to others, or delayed in others. And we walked it together and still came out saying, the treasure is not if we get to have kids.
Right.
The treasure is still Jesus.
Yes.
And Jesus will take us through roads of suffering and loss where the answer is no. Doesn't mean he's gone, doesn't mean even though you've done something wrong. But I think traveling that together sort of helped also steward the, like, your story is your story, and what he's doing with you is what he's doing with you, and it may not be what he's doing with me. But if the thing I want is number one, then our friendship will be ruined.
Yeah.
Because I can't rejoice with you, and I can't carry your burdens. I can't do either.
Right.
I can't rejoice for you when it goes well, and I can't help you when it's bad. When you need encouragement to say, God is really asking you to do something out of your comfort zone, you need to do it. But if I'm so focused on the thing that I want to happen, I can't be a good friend. And I felt like I had a really good friend in you, and I was like, I don't want to ruin I felt like I had the power in my hands to just crush a really good friendship. I knew it.
Yeah.
And it was like, I really felt it. I'm sure it was the Spirit of God. And it was like, do you want to ruin a great friendship? Or do you want to love Jesus, walk the road he's really got for you, and actually have a treasured friend where you can go through anything together? Because it was like, if we got through miscarriage together, we could probably get through anything.
Right.
You know? And so I think part of that fed all that. It was like, we had just walked those roads with friends and with each other of kind of those losses. And knowing that loss and Jesus lovingly saying no is part of this road. He doesn't guarantee the delivery of your dreams and the time and the fashion that you want them. And in fact, even in our 20s, we knew he will likely do the opposite. Yeah.
And we grieved those deaths, physical and otherwise, together. And now, again, this friendship helped give me people to die with. Sounds so morbid. But that's the reality, is like, I'm watching you die to things.
Yeah.
that you love that are good things.
Yep.
They're not sinful things. It is not sinful to go, I love God's word and I want to teach it to people. It's not sinful to want a baby. It's not sinful for me to say I would like a simpler life without public things in it. I would like this or that. But those things are being killed off slowly. And we're
every preference,
grieving and dying and doing it together and seeing that Jesus is up to something bigger than just handing us on a platter a designer life. Here's the life you've always wanted. Yeah. He is sometimes doing the opposite, but to set us free.
Yes.
Even though at times it didn't feel that way.
Yep.
And we needed each other. I mean, you need friends to make it through those things. And that's just part one. Friendship part one.
Part one.
That's how, I don't know, the first however many years, 2 years living in the same city, we probably had, 4 or 5 more not.
Yeah, not living in Houston then.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, so let's fast forward.
Yeah.
Miracle of miracles.
Miracle of miracles.
Your husband landed, gets offered a job in Dallas.
So
and
cool.
I'm like, please
How
take
did this
it.
happen?
And so if you guys have good friends that have not lived in the same city as you, and then all of a sudden they do, and they come to church with you, it's best thing ever.
Yeah.
But it's also been interesting to see this continued journey we're both on of just dying to self show up now in a new season of, okay, we're in the same local community. So tell me about what that move was like for you.
Yeah.
And then I'll tell you what it was like for me.
Yes. Okay, I'll go first. So the church we were at in Houston, I still love it. Still in contact with people there. And I was starting to just get more opportunity in there to do things like teaching or just to do more women's ministry there.
Didn't that just happen right before you moved?
Yes.
That you got finally got a chance to teach and then?
Yes, I did. Okay, I finally got a chance to, I helped with several, and then I finally taught this Women of the Word, 2 Timothy study. And I was so excited. And then God moved in a way, and we found out we were also moving, and we would be moving to Dallas because of my husband's job. And it felt like a miracle because you were here, and I was like, well, great. I have one best friend, and I know what church we're going to go to, and we're already set. But there was a in my mind at that church, I was like, it's finally happened. The Lord has parted the clouds and it's finally happening. And I'm going to do that thing in ministry that I've been wanting to do. And then we moved. And I felt it. It was like, I thought, now, Lord, you're ushering in the kingdom. Okay, that's not what's happening. And there was a real it really did hurt. Yeah. And it was another moment of grieve it, telling God about it, and saying, I know that I really believe this is what we're supposed to do is move. And again, you're saying no, or not yet, or whatever it is. It's not going to be what you thought it was. And we're moving to a new city and starting over. And so starting over in Dallas, I had really pivotal, life-altering moments. I mean, I'm still having them, but specifically in the move, there was a fear, coming to this church, that it was this is a church where Kelly is known, recognized, affirmed, and already written and published thing for this church and teaches for them. And so is there any room for me here? That was a very real, I felt that. Yeah. And then there was a very real, when I'm there, am I just going to be Kelly's friend? There's that girl who's Kelly's friend from Houston. And then there was another feeling that's similar that was nobody here is going to know what I can do. How's anyone going to know, what I'm good at and what I have to offer? And as all those things get churned up by the mercies of God, any difficulty that just, brings it up, I had to wrestle all that with God. And I had to talk to him and come down to the foundation of, Lindsay, the only thing that I have to offer is what I've always had to offer, which is I am a transformed, born-again person trying to walk with Jesus. And I can offer that kind of companionship and community to another person. That's it. There's no the feeling that I was feeling is how will people know that I'm good at this? It was is that what you want to lead with? Because that's definitely what you want to lean on. You want to be known for that. And it was wonderful to move in, surrendered, and say, that's not my goal. Obviously it's there. I wanted it to be my goal, but to let it go. Yeah. But I was grateful that I had enough awareness, even as we moved, to say, that's there. That's there.
Yeah.
But It doesn't have to rule me. Right. It doesn't have to rule everything I'm doing. I think that I experienced a lot of freedom just from confession. Like, we do say that a lot to each other. It's like, hey, just feeling some weird feelings, like you're the much smarter person in the room and I should be quiet and never say anything again.
Right.
And we still say these things to each other. You know, right. And well, but it always helped.
One of the gifts that you've modeled for me is even what you're saying right now. I know so many people listening to that feel those things, whether they've just moved or they're friends with somebody or married to somebody who has a lot more public opportunities within their local church or whatever. They feel the things you're describing, but are afraid sometimes to look at it in their own heart.
Yeah.
And then let alone say it out loud to anyone else.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
But there's actually real power in that to go, this is exactly what I feel. This is exactly what's going on. And I'm going to look at it and say it to someone else. And in that, there's freedom.
I found a lot of freedom in pressing that open honestly with God as much as possible, and either you or other people. And it's always helpful, as much as you can, to not be surprised at yourself.
Yeah.
And there's just a lot of freedom in believing, like, this flesh thing's never getting better. Like Colossians, the flesh is continuously being corrupted. And so when God exposes it, it doesn't have to be a moment of like, and now my life is falling apart because I got that wrong.
Right.
It's like, well, wouldn't you look at that? I didn't think I'd do that, but here we are.
And
And that's not beyond Jesus. Right. He's highlighting it because he'd obviously like to bring me into freedom. And so I want to confess that. So there was a lot of that in Dallas. I felt like I had two really key moments. Well, I had a few. These are my favorite, though. These are my favorite. I remember I was practicing honesty with God. I was praying. I was like, Lord, I just confess. I can tell I want my glory. Like, I want to be known. I want to be, lauded for how wise or articulate I can be. And I know it's gross, but I'm just confessing it. You have all the power over that. I love my own glory. And no joke. I mean, the still small voice I heard, me too. And that was like, that's
the Lord loves his glory.
He loves his glory. And it was the most wonderful, convicting moment. It didn't feel like he was crushing me, but it was like, if I want my glory, I set myself up against the glory of God, which is not very good. No. Not very good for me. But also, how silly.
Yeah.
How silly. How silly that I would want my puny shininess, to come up against who God is. But it was a great freeing moment. And another moment in Dallas, too, that was like, when I'm thinking about how will people in this church, though, know I have something to offer.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. But I'm also telling God that, and knowing that the church is his bride, I just had a moment that was like, what would a man do if you wanted to use his wife for yourself? How would a husband feel about that? And it was like, not good. And that was pivotal. The church is not... As I came into this church that we're both out now, I was like, this church is not for Lindsay to find identity, calling, purpose, acknowledgement, whatever, because the bride is for the groom, and I am not that groom. Do not use another man's wife for yourself. And that all happened in this struggle of moving to Dallas and feeling all that. So I am grateful for the struggle that it kicked it all up, because those were huge moments for me. Those were huge transformative realizations and moments. Yeah.
Which... ironically, is ushering you into true greatness, right? If we can cite John the Baptist, who speaks like that, who has this amazing ministry that's nationally known.
Yeah.
Jesus comes on the scene, and his ministry is in decline, and his disciples are worried about it. And he says, I'm not the groom. I'm not he.
Yep.
The bride belongs to him, and I am happy for him. And may I decrease. May he increase. And Jesus will later say, no one is greater than John. That the greatness that we long for, that is because we're made in the image of the Great One, is actually found when we just get that greatness through him and enjoy his glory instead of fighting for our own. But the temptation to all of us, whether it's in ministry or in some other endeavor that you have in your life, is to be great in our own esteem, in our own glory. And God is so kind to look at us sometimes and go, no. And I think for me, the glory chasing came not in external ministry or notoriety or even in gifting. It was in, so see, this is going to sound terrible too.
It's great.
It's in perfection. I'm gonna not fail.
I will never fail.
I'm gonna be the perfect Christian. I'm gonna read my Bible every day. I'm not gonna sin anymore because I'm gonna figure that thing out.
Figure that whole thing out.
No one needs to know, but I will know in my heart. that I did it. It's terrible sounding.
Oh, yeah.
But that was where that, I think, glory chasing was for me. And God is ushering me into spaces that feel like imminent failure. Because even if I do it well, I know, because I watched it in Jimmy's life, to be in public spaces means you're going to be misunderstood. People are going to misinterpret things you do. You're going to expect wrong things of you. And you will disappoint people, which I was like, not in for that. And God was crushing some of my own pursuits of a type of glory through that.
Yeah.
To set me free, to find joy in a deeper place in him, in who he is, which was really freeing. But on my side of that, when you were here, what's so funny about it is you're coming and going, oh, great, I'm here, I'm going to be in Kelly's shadow, and who's going to know me? And I'm like, great. Everybody's going to finally meet my super smart, gifted friend and be like, Kelly, why are you getting all the opportunities? Because clearly they didn't know about Lindsay.
Oh, my gosh.
But it's true. I have truly felt that. There have been times, and I don't know, even if you're listening to this at Friendship and you don't even know who I am or read any of my books, but I have often thought, God, why haven't you given Lindsay opportunities? Because he has gifted you with that, which isn't you.
Yeah.
It doesn't even go you. It's like the Lord entrusted you with a sharp mind to be able to navigate the word. There was a time once in we run a teaching program together to teach women how to teach the word, which is fun. But in a moment, you were trying to help. I don't remember what it was. No, you were trying to, you were outlining a talk that you had coming up. And you just wanted to run it by us. You're like, I just need to run it by somebody to make sure, give me some feedback. And you drew it out on a whiteboard. I don't know if you remember this. And I'm watching you outline this passage. And it was so great. And I remember thinking, Lord, why are you not giving more opportunities? What a blessing this message would be to so many. And you are taking my friend, who's so gifted at this, and putting her in a small setting where very few people are hearing this message, but it's going to bless them immensely. And my, of course, instinct is like, let's get it out there to everybody.
Yeah.
And I felt, I actually later was praying for you and praying about that on my front porch. And remember thinking, as I was praying about that, looking at my own front yard, felt the still small voice of the Lord in my own heart, just saying, I love to make beautiful things that are hidden. There are flowers and there are animals and creatures in this world that no one knows about, and they make me happy. And they're beautiful. And just because something is lovely and beautiful does not equal now it has to be efficiently used to the nth degree.
Right.
It pleases the Lord for it to be lovely and beautiful and excellent in whatever context he sets it in. But I think in our modern context, we see something awesome, gifting, talent, wiring, and we go, this has to make it big. It has to impact a lot of people. And God doesn't operate that way. I think that's why when Mary pours her entire jar of ointment on Jesus, everybody's like, why such waste? They see it as waste.
Yeah.
You could have been more efficient. That could have been used better. It could have impacted more people. And Jesus says no, because it was an offering to me, and I'm more important than that.
Yep.
But even thinking about, you coming here, it's like, and just what the Lord has done, and who knows what he'll do in the future, but he is content to take highly gifted people and put them in hidden spaces for them to flourish and bless the people that are around them. He's just got a different ecosystem than us. And honestly, next to that, I did not feel as good at that. I don't have a communications degree. I feel better at writing than speaking. Writing feels more in my alley. And so the more speaking events I got, especially right after you moved, I taught a whole thing on Hosea, and you're in the audience, and I'm thinking, I'm not as good as Lindsay, and she's not up here, and that doesn't make sense for here to even be. She just moved here, people don't even know her, and they asked me to do this, and I'm going to do my best. And I felt insecure because it was like, it's just this terrible comparison game that we play with each other. But I think one gift of our friendship has been to just say it out loud.
Yes.
To go to each other and be like, I'm feeling this weird thing.
Yeah.
Can I just say it to you? Even in the Writing of Purposeful, the book that is coming out, you were prepping a talk on similar themes.
Yep.
And it was awesome. And I was like, people are going to hear this and then read my book and be like, why didn't Lindsay write the book? And you're writing the message going, people are going to read your book, Kelly, and go, why are you giving this message, Lindsay? It should be Kelly. But it's become kind of comical at this point. But I'm thankful for the Lord to give me a good friend to just embrace obedience to him.
Yeah.
death to what he's killing and know that it's for good.
Yeah.
And a convictional stance that I want to be more about him and his kingdom than my kingdom.
Yeah.
And what I want. That I don't want to be enslaved to my verbs, to what I feel like I want to do, could do, should do.
Yeah.
I'm enslaved to Christ.
Yeah.
Where does he lead? If he leads me to not doing, let it be. If he leads me to doing, amen. And wherever he takes me, to just embrace the posture John the Baptist had. If it's a season of increase, which it was for him for a long time, amen. If it's a season of decrease, just
Even
as happy.
better.
the joy is in both places.
Yeah.
Because the joy is not in what you're doing, but it's in a person.
Yeah.
And that's so freeing.
I think as having a friendship specifically with someone who's getting the exact thing that you're wanting to do, and then it's not that, it's actually helpful because it takes it out of the context of the actual thing you're doing and makes you realize, like, the circumstances are almost irrelevant. Like, the fact that God is asking me, he's asking us to do the exact same thing. Like, be faithful.
That's right.
Love him. Trust him. And the circumstances are irrelevant. We're being asked by him to do the exact same thing. And the fact that it was so pointedly exactly what I thought I wanted to be doing, it did help me go, this isn't even about the task.
Right.
Jesus is doing the same thing in our lives with these different, opposite set of circumstances. But we're being asked to do the same thing. We're in the same fight. And in a weird way, it felt unifying. It felt unifying to cheerlead each other in, like, and even the times that you had identified, Lindsay, I do think you're being hidden. I don't know why.
Right. Yeah.
It was actually helpful for me to go, okay, right? So I'm not,
I'm not crazy.
I'm not crazy. And this isn't maybe just a result somehow of my failure or I've done something wrong that I'm here. But even for you as my friend, just to say, I feel like I'm watching your life and you are being hidden.
Right.
And I don't know all his reasons, but stay there. I mean, it was encouraging to be like, I stay here. I stay here.
Stay where it puts you.
And the same for you, although it was a different kind of staying here and it was a different kind of endurance to keep saying yes to what he was telling you to do. We were still able to help each other in that. Because it's the same fight.
It's the same fight.
It was a different
context. And then when he shifts all our verbs again in the future, it's going to be the same fight.
And we've been the voice in each other's life, along with other people, to say, and someday this ends.
Yes.
This ends. This always changes.
Yeah.
There will come a time where nobody wants to hear either one of us,
That's
Kelly.
right.
We will both be irrelevant in our churches. And we will be old biddies. And nobody wants to say anything to us.
Yes.
And we will just disciple one girl at a time who will listen to us over a coffee table. And it'll be amazing.
Yes.
If we get to live that long. But I've also, it was helpful too to see, like, the more opportunities that you did get, it helped the shiny veneer of, like, Bible Speaker Lady go away. Because, like, those kind of fantasies that we build about who we think we are and, like, what we're going to do grossly overestimate, like, our giftedness, our capacities, how secure we feel.
Right.
And the reality is I am fraught with weaknesses, insecurities, terror, panic, like a certain amount of bandwidth. Yeah. And as I watched you walk into it helped me go, like, this is much more difficult than I thought, you know? Just the pressure of the pressure of speaking in front of people, the amount of insecurity you deal with before, during, and after doing something like that. Your literal emotional bandwidth to give yourself to something like that. That the stage always felt like this fanciful, glorifying thing that I wanted. Now that I have taught more and seen you teach more, it definitely is more a place of dying than I ever knew that it was.
Which we both had a lot of practice at.
More death.
Yeah.
And so, but watching you walk those roads did help some of the shiny, uninformed and inexperienced ideas I had of what speaking in public life and even how I would function in that. It's like, you're underestimating how lonely this is, how isolating this is, how insecure driving it is, how the enemy might attack you here. It helped me be like, by God's grace, I have made a lot of strides in embracing whatever hiddenness he gives me, but also it made me go, maybe I don't want any of that.
Right.
That'd be fine. I don't need that. I don't have book deadlines that I have to get. There's a lot less pressure. So anyway, but being your friend and watching it from that angle has been like, oh, this is not, all rainbows and unicorns and dreams coming true.
Right.
This is really hard.
Which I think is one good encouragement for all of us at every season, to not clump up in groups of like-minded doing.
Yes.
Oh, we're all the people who are all doing our
all the creatives.
All our creatives, or all the side hustles, or all the people who aren't doing any of that and just would like to be. Let's all huddle up over here because that feels easier because we have the same complaints, burdens, woes, frustrations.
Yeah. Exposing
yourself to other people, even though that's hard and has pitfalls of envy and fear or comparison. If we're really willing to be honest, we'll find the battle's the same. And really the answer's the same. We just need Jesus. He is our safe place to land. He is our joy, like John the Baptist, when he is what we're living for.
Yeah.
We can be exalted and diminished. We can do what we want to do and what we don't want to do, because we will always be in and out of different verbs that we like doing and ones we don't like doing. We can do all of it with joy when Jesus is at the center of it. And that's a battle we're all fighting. And we need other people to do it together.
Absolutely.
There it was. That's all she wrote. It's over. Kaput. Done. Finito.
Hey, but we're still here.
Maybe. This was recorded in the past. I don't even know if I'm alive anymore, to be honest with you. I don't know. Could I be recording this post-mortem? Pre-mortem?
You would be a person who would do that.
I think everybody who records something is recording it before they die.
No.
I'm pretty sure.
You know what I meant. Thanks for tuning in with us today. I hope these conversations have been helpful to you. They're exploring ideas that hopefully are resonating with you.
Is that funny to you? Kelly thinks it's a joke that these things are resonating. Wait, let me pick up the ball that she dropped.
There you go.
We are going to keep coming out with these episodes, and you can't stop us week to week. We're coming at you. And there's a book that we want you to check out. If you haven't gathered that, Purposefooled, go to purposefooled.com. Get yourself a copy. Get yourself all the perks that come on the website. Don't waste your time. Don't you do it. You're probably sitting there right now, just picking your ear, just going like,
what?
Oh, I got nothing to do. Go to purposefooled.com.
That was so much better than what I did until the weird ear thing. Then it went sideways.
What if that resonated with somebody who was picking their ear?
I hope it didn't.
Okay.
Don't email us.
Okay. We'll see you guys next time.